Welcome back to Chat News at Noon. I'm Dan Reinish. My guest today is here to talk about something we've all been discussing over the last week. Shandy Froese is here from TD Wealth to talk about the federal budget. So I hate to put this upon you, but what are a couple of changes that came out of the budget as far as taxes are concerned or money is concerned?
Yeah, you bet. So several changes came last week. The big one is capital gains. So the capital gains rate has changed. We've been talking about this for years, and it's finally changed. So the capital gains rate currently sits at 50%. So meaning if you have a $100,000 capital gain from the sale of an asset, you would have to include 50% of that, or $50,000, onto your income.
Wow.
And it would be taxed accordingly. As it goes now, they have changed it from 50% to 2/3. So for corporations and trusts, that 50% inclusion is now 2/3 of that capital gain. And so for individuals, there is a threshold. So that threshold is 250,000. So meaning, if you have a capital gain of 250,000 or more, the first 250 would be taxed at that 50% inclusion.
Right.
And then anything over and above that would be 2/3. Okay, and so that all takes place June 25th, 2024. Another big one was the change to capital gains exemption, this one being a bit more welcome than the capital gains inclusion rate. And so as it sits right now, the capital gains exemption for the sale of business assets or farming or fishing property is $1 million. Anything over and above that would be subject to the capital gains rate.
Okay.
And so now they have actually increased that to $1.25 million. And so definitely a welcome change. Again, anything over and above that, we would then be using those new tax rules in terms of that inclusion rate of 2/3 for corporations and trusts, and individuals. If it's over the 250, again, then you'd have that 2/3 there as well.
One thing the budget taught me is don't make a lot of money, because if you make a lot of money, you're going to be paying a lot more in capital gains. You mentioned the June 25th deadline. What is that all about?
Yeah, so that's when the changes are taking place. So there's definitely going to be a transition period here where we're not exactly sure how that's going to look in terms of navigating it. However, definitely something that you will want to be aware of. In terms of navigation of it, highly recommend seeking out the advice of a tax professional. We have been told that there will be no prorating, so that $250,000 threshold will be applicable. So over the coming days and weeks, we'll have a bit better understanding of how we're going to go through that. But yes, definitely not a bad thing to loop in your accountant if this is applicable to you.
Well, it was mentioned that it was specified in the budget that only Canada's wealthiest people are going to be taxed by this. But there's got to be something that everyday people like you and me need to watch out for.
Absolutely. I know in the release it said that 0.13% of Canadians are going to be subject to this, and then 12% of corporations or trusts. However, definitely as a financial planner, we're not just looking at that siloed year, we're looking at things over a 20 to 30-year period.
Yeah.
And so absolutely, if you have a large capital gain now, that is just going to be that much larger in 20, 30 years. So it's something that we're always looking at in terms of, okay, how can we mitigate that tax liability upon passing? So that's just, typical estate planning that we're doing. And then property too, you'll want to be aware of if you've got a cottage or property, land that you want to transition off in your will to your family. You're going to have an increased tax liability there that we need to be aware of in the planning. So absolutely something you want to talk with your financial planner about, your accountant. And then we haven't even touched on some of the other things, like the annual minimum tax regime has changed. And then we also have this new Canadian entrepreneur incentive. So multiple things you'll want to chat with your accountant and your financial planner on.
Good to know that you guys are out there. Good to know, because if you're making too much money nowadays, you're going to get taxed.
Yeah, and you want to absolutely be tax efficient, and there's different strategies that we can do all the time.
Shandy Froese has been here. It's been Wealth Wednesday. Thank you very much for talking, giving us a lot to think about.
Thank you so much.